Hey, it's Freitag. In this podcast, we interview business owners in New Hampshire and beyond to get their perspective on work, growth, and of course, the weekend. Join our host, Freitag marketing owner Jan Ziegler, as he interviews fascinating guests. We hope you'll enjoy this episode.
Hello, welcome to another episode of It's Freitag. I'm Jan. Today we have a bit of a different episode. Tim Pipp is back for a second time. Last time he was here talking about Beeze Tees. Today we're going to talk a little bit about a small project we've been working on that we wanted to share with you. So welcome, Tim.
Thank you for having me back.
Tell me what we've kind of been working on.
So, if you didn't know, we've been working on, it's called Talentshare. And basically, when we first met, we both had the same issue. We need another designer, or we need, some light bookkeeping, or we needed somebody, but we don't need them full time. And I mean, I've had this problem since I started the business, and it doesn't make sense for me to go out and hire a part-time graphic designer for $50 an hour or whatever it may be. And so you and I were talking, and we said, let's just build it and let's do it ourselves. And so basically, Talentshare is a toolbox of different employees that we've hired that we can use in any way we want. And so we have a graphic designer that if I have a few projects, I throw them to them. And the problem with it was we didn't have enough work for 10 different employees. So we said, why don't we sell it? And we've got a couple clients that are trying us out, and they're using our services, and we're finding our way, but it's been an interesting experience. And I know I've been using it a lot for my company lately, and we get a lot more done. And I think you've been using it too. And it's kind of cool because they're our employees, but they're doing work for a different company in a sense.
Yeah, and I think for us, it was always especially in the beginning, but also when you're a realtor, you're just somebody with a small staff. You kind of need somebody to do many different things. You need a Swiss Army knife of an employee. And those are really hard to find, and those are really expensive because who knows an admin person that also happens to be able to graphic design, make some social media posts, and also, maybe answer some emails or write some guidelines or do some research. I think that versatility is actually pretty hard to find. And so what we thought is, well, instead of, having one person do that, we have a membership, and people could just become a member at Talentshare, and then they could use all of the people that we have. And it works in a fractional model because everybody needs a little bit of something. So maybe kind of give me an overview of what are potential use cases? What could people use Talentshare for? What is it good for? What is it not good for? Where are the limitations?
Yeah, and with what you just said too, I think employers are often trying to fill the plate for 40 hours a week. And like you said, you've got an admin doing bookkeeping and some graphic design work. That doesn't ever work. And there's really nobody out there that can do everything. Business owners tend to do that. But when you hire an employee, you're not finding somebody that's going to do 10 different jobs in 10 different directions because it's just confusing. But as far as use cases, one of our clients, we're going to do a newsletter for them. So we're going to put together some of their content. We're going to help them build a little bit there. We'll put together a newsletter. We'll send it out. They don't really know how to use MailChimp, so we've offered to do that. I am actually, one of my tasks is every Monday at 10 o'clock. I've got a temp to hire employee. She clocks in on my system. We send her hours over to her company. So Talentshare has taken that over. In fact, every Monday I get an email copied. And it's just one less thing that I've got to worry about. And the nice thing about that one is, it takes 5 minutes. It's not a 2-3 hour thing. It's only 5-10 minutes. But I would get an email every Monday at 1 saying, "Hey Tim, we need your time clocks by 10 a.m." So that's off my plate. Another one is translating. We have a client that has a lot of Spanish-speaking employees, and he wants to build a handbook, and he wants to do some translations through Zoom calls and stuff like that. So we're on the call for those, and we translate those, and that's worked out pretty well. Graphic design is a big one. I think, we've got a couple of people interested in using us for graphic design. I don't think, if you're going to need us for 40 hours a month for graphic design, it's probably not a great fit because you're close to needing a full-time person at that point, it's only 40 hours, so it's not a full-time person, but I think where we are best, our best use is if you're using us for multiple projects and multiple things. Another one of our clients, and I've used it for this, and I think you have too, is building email lists or contact lists or potential client lists. We'll cold email. I've got a company that we cold email, and we'll send out sample packs. And so one of our people at Talentshare put together a list and with whatever I wanted in it, and told them what I wanted, what I didn't want, and they put the list together. We emailed them out, and we've gotten business from the list that was built. So there's a lot of different possibilities. We don't do bookkeeping. Like, we're not going to be an accountant or a bookkeeper. That's too deep. Like, you really need somebody that can be there for you but
I think there's it's a lot of admin tasks. Like, for example, at Freitag, I'm blessed that we have in-house design teams and we have in-house creative teams. And so my design need typically is not that high, except for sometimes I need a slide deck. And I look at my designers and they're all busy with client work. And I was like, well, I have this presentation, I need a slide deck. Super easy to send over to Talentshare. Sometimes, for example, we do a monthly, a worksheet, a timesheet analysis for people's, how much time they've worked on accounts. It's a time suck. Nobody really likes doing it. Perfect for Talentshare. I think email lists are always great. We just did for a Talentshare client. Talentshare did, I think, a list of property management companies in Cheshire County. And that was really easy. It's easy for Talentshare, because that manually takes, 3-4 hours. But it really replaces all these small little tasks that you do on a recurring basis. And I think that's where it's really good. I think that the one thing where Talentshare really hits its limit is when tasks get too deep or they require too much in-depth knowledge of a company. Because Talentshare is not made to sit in your meetings. Talentshare is not made to read the minds of your salespeople. But it can help with all these easier tasks. And one of the things that we did for Talentshare is we actually have a call-in number where you can just leave us your task and basically make it easy. So because a lot of people are not in front of their computer all day. They might be a plumber, they might be a realtor, they might be driving around. So people can just call in and leave their task, and the system recognizes them, and then we get to work on a task and we return it via email, send you a text notification. So basically trying to make it really easy for people that have things on their mind while they drive around to take their tasks off their mind and return them back. And it could be really great for any number of organizations, whether you need mostly a graphic designers with a little bit of admin, or you need mostly admin with a little bit of design, or whatever else you need. And I think the most interesting thing about it is figuring out what people actually need.
Yeah, and the question I ask, because I'm helping, my role in the company is really the sales, the kind of an onboarding, and my main question is, what are your pain points? And that's why I'm using it. Is I think about these projects that I've had in my project list for a year. And I look at them wait a second, I could have Talentshare do that one. I don't need to explain too much, but pain points, I talk about this hours over to the agency there. It was a pain point of mine. I had to think about it. It kind of stressed me out sometimes, and now it's off my plate completely. And I think that's the biggest part of it is we're here to help you grow your business. We're your employees for 40 hours a month, and you can use us however you want. And if you've got projects that you've been looking at for a year that you just haven't had time to work on, we may be able to help you there. If you want more sales, there's definitely things we can help with there. But the admin task thing, a lot of people just think that they've got to do everything in their own business. And it works well even if you're not the owner. If you're a manager and you've got a team of people, look at the tasks that your team's doing. Is it worth paying them $50 an hour, $35 an hour? There's a lot now that people are just not doing anymore. They don't want to do these admin, moving things from one place to another. There's a lot of automations out there, but then a lot of automations don't work well. And that's actually another use case is, and I guess in my own company, if an order comes through online, it doesn't automatically go into our CRM, so we manually put it in there. And once we get to that point, we'll have somebody from Talentshare take the order from an email and put it into our CRM. And it's just something that it doesn't make sense for me to pay one of my staff members to do. They don't want to, I wouldn't want them to do it, and it's so one-off that it's not something that I'm going to hire full time.
And I think the other thing is a lot of what Talentshare can do could also be like an AI use case or an automation use case. But I think often with these AI and automation use cases, unless you really know what you're doing and you're like deep in there, you hit a limitation really fast. And then you realize that, oh, actually a human who thinks a little bit is still better equipped to handle like these very small steps. And I think Talentshare is perfectly built for like companies that are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Yeah. And they just need like 40 hours of their month back. And I think the one question that I always ask people is like, well, what would you do with an extra 10 hours a week? Because I can find 10 hours in your week, that's 2 hours a day, where you do tasks that probably somebody else could do for you. And you likely don't want to hire somebody with benefits and all the things, which, you know, ends up being probably around here $40 when you can have a Talentshare membership for $1,000 a month. And you can, you know, cancel it at any time. You can try it out. So that's kind of, I'm just really excited about it because I always, like, from a marketing perspective, we always think at Freitag about how can we help local businesses do better? And it's very focused on marketing, but I think Talentshare is kind of like the model on how can we have even smaller businesses in even more ways. And so I'm super excited about it. And for me, it's just like a passion project.
Yeah, when we first, and I mean, we met not even a year ago, I think. And I think one of our first meetings, we were just throwing these ideas out, and this came up. I mean, it's, you know, I'm willing to unload my plate as much as I can. I think that's where a lot of business owners get stuck, is they think that they've got to do it. But, you know, you and I had that same mindset of, oh, I don't need to do that. I can have somebody else do it, but it doesn't make sense for me to hire. And, you know, when we first met, we had a very similar mindset there, that I don't have to do everything. You don't have to do everything.
And I think it's. I mean, for, like, you've been doing what you've been doing for 15 years, but like Freitag's such a young company that like it's really hard to let go of some of these tasks. Yeah. Like I remember like the first client emails that I didn't write anymore. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Like I was so nervous. I was like, oh my, but what if somebody says the wrong thing? And it's like these baby steps to now, obviously I still write emails, but not nearly as many as I used to. And everybody's happier.
And it's important though, because you stepped away a little bit. You know, sometimes you have some issues and you'll fix those, but that's growing pains and people recognize that. And you're so, like you said, you're so young and new, and that people expect a little bit of a hiccup maybe, or missed, you know, email or whatever. But this helps you not miss the emails, because, you know, if you're dealing with, in my case, 6,000 orders a year, I can't put together 6,000 orders. I can't print 6,000. I can't do all that by myself. So I need help. And, you know, I want to do 8,000 orders and I need more help. And so, you know, same as you, we can't do everything. And that's just a realization right there. You just have to realize that you can't do everything, and not everybody's going to be you, but, you know, people can mock you a little bit.
But I think it can be so many small tasks. Like, for example, let's say you're a realtor and you really, like, you have to edit your photos after you take them of your listings. And that takes you an hour because you're neither passionate about editing photos because you're a realtor, otherwise you'd be a photographer. And you have to write a listing description. And yeah, obviously you have to proofread it, but like the first draft, like you can send somebody the, you know, MLS details and they can write it up. Super easy. Or, for example, let's say you are working in a company and you have to keep a stupid inventory. And you really hate systems and you really hate inventories, but if you could just email a person to keep an inventory for you, so you don't have to do it, and you can set up the system, you can set up emails that go out to customers after they purchase something about, like, for example, an upcoming yoga class. There's so much you can do to basically make your customer experience better, your own experience better, free up time, and do things a lot more predictable. Like if I think about like what we do at Freitag, for example, like reporting, when it was me putting the reports together and emailing them out, it would be all over the place, because like by the time I forgot the last report, and like the last report, the last client went out like on the 18th of the month or something ridiculous. Now they just go out, and I mean, I look at them, but I don't write them, and I don't write the emails.
And they're probably right now.
Yeah, and they're right. And I think that's like the leverage of having people help you. And so I think Talentshare is to help people sort of exercising the muscle of delegation. And I think that's what it's perfect for, because it's basically the segue to your first hire.
Or in addition to your already existing staff that's doing great. But I agree. I think this is a great first hire, or second or third. I mean, it could also be a 20th hire that, you know, you just recognize you don't need 5 people doing 2, 3, 4 hours worth of work a month.
Yeah. And I think even if you have 4 hires, like I would recommend you go around the room in your next meeting, you say, everybody give me a list of the 5 tasks that you like the least. And you see which ones out of those are pretty normal. They're pretty standardized and they are very repetitive. And that is a Talentshare project. And I think we underestimate the power of taking hated tasks away from our staff and how much better it makes them feel. Like I know this. We have an admin assistant at Freitag, and once a week she has to do these customer matchbacks, and she absolutely hates it because it is the dumbest 3 hours of copy and pasting, like from different sources into one spreadsheet and then send it to a client. It is mind-boggling, annoying, boring work. And I completely understand how somebody who like actually wants to do stuff with their time would hate doing it. So that's a Talentshare use case. And there's so many more of those. So I think this kind of like wraps it up, but because it is Freitag, Tim, I'm curious, like instead of talking about like what a good weekend looks like, which is what we usually do right now, tell me a little bit about what do you do with the time that Talentshare frees up?
It's funny because I was going to mention it earlier. Somebody asked me, I posted on Facebook about Talentshare that I was starting a business, and somebody responded with, how do you have so much time? And my answer was Talentshare. And it's true because, you know, I've now my mind just automatically goes, is this a Talentshare task? But truthfully, you know, I'm building a couple different businesses. And so I can put more effort towards what I'm good at and what I like doing into those businesses. And I'm having somebody do the work that I don't love. And I think that's the answer, is I'm putting more of an effort into what I'm good at and what I do. And I love what you said about, I'm going to add that to our reviews this year, is what do you hate? What do you like the least? What tasks do you do that you like the least? Because I think I could probably fill up a couple more hours here, but it's just the next thing. You know, I've got, I don't know, 3 or 4 different companies that I'm juggling. And so I just put it into the next thing.
Yeah. And I think you can do that, or you can go cycling and swimming and like spending time with your family. Or
I should have said that.
Yeah, you should have said that. Be like, Jessica, don't listen. Yeah. But I think it's exactly that, is like, I hate and I procrastinate tasks that I don't enjoy doing. And I think like Freitag, I'm on this ever impossible mission of trying to do only things I enjoy. And I think I'm pretty close at this point. Like most of the days, like there's some days I dread. My meeting with my bookkeeper is never fun because I just tune out after 5 seconds.
But you've done it differently too. You started with that mindset. I'm 15 years in now adapting that mindset. So I'm undoing a lot of the things that I did early on. I do a lot of things I don't like to do every day. But with a year in, less than a year in of your own company, you had that mindset. And it's really hard to go back after 15 years and undo all the jobs that I've created for myself. But I'm doing that. And I think, you know, again, Talentshare is definitely a big part of that. But, you know, I'd say if you're starting a business or you're new into business, start with that mindset and don't adapt it over time. You know, there's jobs out there that you're going to hate doing. You'll have to do them to start off with, but there's definitely resources and tools out there that you can use, like Talentshare.
Like Talentshare. Well, I hope this was an enjoyable episode, even though it was slightly different. We'll go back to our regularly scheduled programming next week. Thank you